Good morning, everyone. We're letting people in. Our guest today is Karen Johnson. Hello, Miss Johnson. She's our Register of Deeds. How are you?
Hello.
Are you in your office this morning?
I am.
All right. Well, your office looks very nice. We are so glad you're here. The first couple minutes, we usually just generally talk about something until we get everybody on. That's a lot of stuff on your wall, Miss Johnson. A lot of things that look like election certificates and probably things that you made up. What are those things all over the place?
Well, one of them is the resolution that the Metro Council you did.
Oh,
Directly behind me, I believe. So
okay.
all of the Metro Council members.
And what did we do? Did we say something to you like congratulations on your election or?
Did.
Okay. Okay. So good for us for doing. So look to your right on your right wall.
Display that.
What?
I proudly display that.
You proudly display that. Did you just put that up because we were going to be on this call today?
No, it's
no. Okay, so it's there all the time.
I came into the office.
Okay, good. All right. So what about to your right on that wall? What's over there?
Those are let me see. Those are the election.
Okay, so your election certificates.
Certificates of election.
I think mine are upstairs somewhere in a box or someplace. Okay, that's just whatever. All right, so let me see. What else can I see in your office? Looks like it's very nice. There's some plants, just a couple of chairs. I don't know if I've ever come to visit you in your office. So, so where is your office? Your office, I believe, is in Bridgestone Arena. Is that right?
It's in the Bridgestone Arena.
Okay.
And what used to be here actually was the Central Police Precinct,
okay,
and this office. And how we got here was pretty interesting. We were basically moved out because of the construction. Well, I wasn't here, but
yeah,
the office was moved out of the courthouse because of construction, and had a couple of temporary locations. Originally, this office was supposed to be housed in the old Ben West building where the council had their temporary meetings. That actually would have been the perfect space actually for this operation. And but what ended up happening was the law department booted us out.
All right.
Because that was the side the Register of Deeds office used to be located, right across from where the mayor's office is. But when it was renovated, that became the ideal place for everyone wanting to be.
Right.
And so the Register of Deeds had to find another location, and this one was available. It still could be built out. And so it was built specifically around the walls and everything around our operations. And so it has been here ever since, because we have to be close to attorneys and the courts and things of that sort because of the legal paperwork.
So let me ask you this. So if people are looking for your office, they find it, where do they park to be able to come in and get information from you?
We actually have parking now on 6th Avenue, which is right next to the arena. And we also have parking right in front of the arena. So there are some parking meters that have yellow bags on it and the Register of Deeds sign. And you can park directly in front of the arena, which is a prime parking spot actually.
So if I want to go to the hockey game, I can come visit you first and then just leave my car there? Is that it?
No.
Oh, no, I can't do that.
Okay. Because then they'll have up red parking, no parking bags on the meters.
Oh, they switch for game time.
And it'll be blocked off.
Right. All right, it's a little bit after 10. Welcome everyone. We're back live. We took 2 weeks off. Our guest today is Karen Johnson, my friend, Register of Deeds for Nashville and Davidson County. We're so glad you're here. Hope everybody had a nice 4th of July weekend. And it's I don't know what it's going to do today. It was gloomy at first. I think it's supposed to rain later, but anyway, I'm looking outside. It looks like the sun's out now. Um, um, Councilmember John Rutherford is on. Welcome, Councilmember. And we'll have some other guests probably join us. So Karen, our first question usually to all our guests is tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where'd you go to school? How did you get to the Register of Deeds office?
Well, that has been a long journey. I am originally from Montgomery, Alabama, and my family was relocated to Nashville in 1985. And that was when Dr. Henry Ponder with Fisk University, he was president of Fisk University, brought my father here to Nashville as chief financial officer at Fisk University. He came from Alabama State University. That's where we basically grew up, around Alabama State University in Montgomery. And so my father was well known within the finance arena, financial operations, making sure that universities were solvent, had money flow, good money flow. And so Dr. Henry Ponder tapped him to come to Nashville. And honestly, I couldn't believe it. when my parents said we were moving to Nashville, me and my twin sister, we thought, and her name is Sharon, I'm Karen, and her middle name is Sharon Yvonne, and I'm Karen Yvette. But when the moving truck showed up to our house, we had huge 18-wheelers, because as you can imagine, we were there our whole life. And so these big 18-wheeler trucks pull up to the house, and that was the stark reality that we were leaving Montgomery, Alabama to move to Nashville, Tennessee.
And how old were you when you moved up here?
I was 17.
So you left in high school. Is that
I
it?
left he came and set up. We actually lived on the campus of Fisk University.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody remembers the brown townhome condominiums that were on the campus of Fisk. That's where we lived when we first moved here. And so I was young, but he allowed me and my twin sister, which my mother was the librarian at the high school we were at, Jefferson Davis High School. I know that name is like, oh my gosh, they probably will change it eventually. But we were young, and we were able to graduate there, and then we immediately came back to Nashville to live on the campus of Fisk.
So okay, so you moved up here. You're living on the campus at Fisk. Okay, what happens after that? Where'd you go to college?
Well, originally I had two offers. One to go to Cornell. I got accepted.
Oh wow.
There.
Okay.
And so I was trying to move away, because me and my sister, we were both up under my mother for all of our high school years. So I was trying to actually get away from my parents. And then my cousins graduated from Southern University, so I also got accepted there. And so I was in this situation where I was new to Nashville, and I had the choice of going up north or down south to Southern University. And I really wanted to be with an HBCU.
Mm-hmm.
So my parents kind of tricked me into staying here, me and my sister. They had us
and how do they trick you? What do they do?
Well, he knew I wasn't going to go to Fisk, because I didn't want to be up under my parent again. Yeah. We were up under my mother in high school, so we were trying to get away. And so he connected me to people at Tennessee State University, and they took me on a tour, and I fell in love with the campus. And I said, well, Nashville is new. It's a HBCU. It's close to my mother and father. So I stayed on campus though.
So you
And
got away from them to some extent.
to some
But
extent,
but you weren't that far. You were just down the street. You're
huh?
down the street from them.
I'm down the street.
So you really got far away from them, like less than a mile. Yeah,
But
good for
used to
you.
eat, but so funny, I used to eat lunch at Fisk every day. So although I'm trying to get away, there was a company called Junction Foods that
Yeah.
was at Fisk, and people know of them. And they had their food is so good that I would always come to Fisk for lunch every day to eat. So it's so funny when I think about it because I really didn't get away like I had intended to do.
Well, you moved less than 5 minutes away. So that's getting out from the reach of your parents. All right. So when you were eating lunch near on Fisk, the Fisk campus, did you see your parents all the time?
No, my
Okay.
father was always busy.
Yeah.
But then I would on my free time go over to Hillsborough High School
What for?
because my mother was the librarian under
Oh.
Dr.
You're supposed to be staying away from them.
I stayed away. And so I stayed over in Green Hills too. And I had, it's a lot. I just always stayed around my parents, and that wasn't the intent initially.
All right. So you went far away from home to TSU. You lived on campus. What did you do there besides go back and visit your parents?
I became very active on the campus. I reactivated a student chapter there called the Student Chapter for the Society for Human Resource Management. And they received 2 national awards for chapter operations. And so I became known around the campus as a worker. I immediately loved Tennessee State University. I became the first College of Business student to also become an editor with the student newspaper, The Meter.
Cool. Okay.
So that's where I put all of my energy into.
Okay. So your degree, though, I think was in HR. Is that right? Like human
My
relations?
degree is in business administration. I had a BBA. But my emphasis was human resources.
Okay. All right. So after you left TSU, what did you do then? Where'd you go? And then we'll get into, because you've had a whole history of being elected to different things. So what did you do between school and before you started running for office?
Between school and running for office, raising my 2 children who are 11 months apart. I have 2 boys and they're 11 months apart, Chris and John. And just juggling being a young mother and working full time and going to school all at the same time.
Yeah. All right. So is it the first office you ever ran for? Was that school board?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So tell people about that. Some people may not remember that you served on the school board, but that's where I know you from. So what happened? Why did you decide to run for the school board?
I decided to run for the school board because I was very active in the community, and it was mostly with my children in the schools. And so my parents helped me buy what was a HUD home at the time. That was my first home in Bell Oaks.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of my first experience into community service. And so we turned around some conditions in that neighborhood. And mind you, I got 2 small children. I'm going to college, all this stuff going on. So
what do you take do you take like energy pills?
I take no energy pills.
Do you drink a lot of coffee in the morning?
I don't even like coffee.
Do you drink? I drink Red Bull. Do you drink Red Bull in the morning?
Drink Red Bull.
Where do you get your energy? Where do you get your energy from?
I was told I have a high metabolism, so I guess that's what it's from. But I juggled a lot at a young age, and
right.
When I look back on it now, I'm like, wow, I didn't know I did all of that.
Did you get a master's degree?
I got a master's degree in the midst of Yeah,
From Trevecca? Is that where you got it from?
Trevecca.
Okay.
And all of that was during that time frame of still,
Okay.
raising children, working full time. And I would be up all night studying. I was very determined to get my education. And so what led me into the political arena was just the involvement in the community and the schools. People encouraged me to run, and so I did. I ran for Metro Council in 2003,
Okay, so
and
go back before. So you were on the school board for how long?
uh,
Was it 8
well,
years? Okay.
school board actually came after Metro Council. when
Oh, can't remember.
when I ran
Okay.
for council, and then I had 41% of the vote. One of the opponents had 31%, and the others had single digits. That put me in a 4-week runoff. And
Yeah.
at the time, I was working at HCA. And so when I got into the 4-week runoff, they thought I was going to be anti-union, the union folks. And,
Okay.
and so they backed my opponent, and I lost by 49 votes because of that power of the union. So I learned their power. And so after not going that route, Mayor Purcell, who I had met with after being selected for the top 40 under 40 by the Tennessean, tapped me to serve on the Board of Zoning Appeals. And at that time, I didn't know what that was, but I was willing to learn. He said a lot of young people were not interested in local government, and they like seeing a young person interested in it. And he said, you may at some time in the future decide you want to do more, and this will be an avenue for you to learn. So I started learning about the inner workings of Metro, and how decisions were made. And then about 2 years after that, maybe a year and a half after that, I ran for school board, and that was because people again encouraged me. My husband was one of the biggest cheerleaders of me running for the school board, and so I ran in 2006. And it was a 3-way race with former Councilman Dwayne Dominy. He later on went to council, but he was in the race with me. It was Dwayne Dominy, Dr. Mebedin Whippy, and myself. And Dr. Whippy was the incumbent at the time. And so I put my hat in the ring and ran a really aggressive campaign, and won with 52% of the vote in a 3-way race, and served there for 4 years.
Okay.
And then ran for juvenile court clerk because I had done stuff around children, and I had an administrative background. God didn't want me there. So he routed me back around to what I originally wanted to do, which one of my dreams since I was 19 years old was to be a Metro City Council member. And so
Some people might consider that a nightmare at this point, but that was your dream.
Oh my gosh, that's why I did so. I love Metro Council.
Well, because I served with you and you were great. So you ran for Metro Council and got elected, right?
A 5-way race and didn't have a runoff. Isn't that God?
You served, that's amazing, particularly with that many people in the race. So you won and you served, so I remember 2 terms, right? Yeah. The second time, did you run uncontested so you didn't have to worry about it?
No, nobody. When you have people out there that just don't want to see you do something,
yeah.
They put people in the race. And so somebody was put in that race, and I bested them 82%, which,
that's pretty darn.
I had to earn my way vice mayor.
I understand. So you did a lot of stuff in the council, and then you ran for Register of Deeds, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you were elected. I'm trying to remember. Was it 3 years ago?
Yeah, in 2018.
Okay, so you were still on the council at that point, and then ran for Register of Deeds.
Yes.
Okay, that's what opened your seat up eventually after that. All right. So, and then you ran for Register of Deeds and was elected. I think Mr.
I was in my last year now. So.
You were in your last year. I got it.
And I
So,
was
okay.
determined with it.
So that's where you are now. That's why you have everything on your wall. All right. So you are our register of deeds. So for people who are out there who have no idea what you do, what does that office do? What is there in your office, and what makes the office so important? Because it is.
It's very important.
Yeah.
One of the things that makes this office very important, it is the economic engine of the city, basically. Um, we handle all of the real estate transactions before anybody can get keys to your home or your property. um, all of the legal paperwork has to be officially recorded with the Register of Deeds office. And that's what makes this office very important. We were classified during the pandemic as a critical infrastructure workforce by the US Department of Homeland Security. And so to be classified as that tells you how important it is that this function serves in the real estate arena and the mortgage lending arena. And so that's what really, I think people don't really know the true importance of the office. You know, we could delay you being able to lock in on your current interest rate. And so, you know, that's pretty major. So people are like clamoring, trying to get certain things officially recorded by certain dates. And
So
all
how far do the records go back in your office? What do you all keep there?
1700s.
1700. So everything regarding, and tell me if I'm wrong, but everything regarding kind of land transactions
Yes.
will be in your office. You are the keeper of who owns what in the city.
Yes.
But you also have other documents. So, you know, certain things that have to be filed, certain things have to come your way as well. So what do you have there? First, what do you have there? Because then there's a question that came in over the week that said, what if I want to come research? So first of all, what do you all have on your premises that you keep? What are you responsible for holding on to?
Well, we have a lot of different legal documents. We have covenants and restrictions. Like, I'm trying to give the basics of what people can identify with.
Sure.
So if you're in a homeowners association, those articles and documents are officially recorded here. So
Okay.
if you know if something has changed and you want to know the original language that pertain to the covenants and restrictions for your HOA, that would be here in this office. We have various legal court documents. As you know, different things happen with property. And so say for instance, you own the IRS. The IRS files tax liens here in this office. If you, there are different power of attorneys. Am I missing anything? The articles of incorporation for your business that you file with the Secretary of State. Those are documents that are here. So when we had the tornado and people needed those documents for their small business loan applications, they have to come here to the Register of Deeds office to get that.
Is there a list, and it may be just in law, a list of what has to be filed in your office? So if I wanted to see kind of what everything was, is there a place to go? Like, what do I have to file in your office, and what do you actually have?
We don't have a list of what has to be filed here in the office. However, that's relatively easy to find because this office is, all of the activities are defined by state law. And so it's very easy to look up, you know, what is required to be filed in the office. What we do have on our website, nashville.gov/ROD, which is Register of Deeds. If you go there, we have all of the different instruments that are like a a glossary of all of the different instruments that are found in the office. So that will give you a good, I think, picture of what is housed here. So you could go to that link and see all of the different documents, because we give a definition for each of them, because people want to know what is that? What is that document? So all of that is defined on a link on our website.
Okay, so most people would associate your office, I assume, with like title searches.
Yes.
And you know, I think that's where most people would think, you know, you buy a house, you buy a condominium, whatever, and you know, you go through the closing and there's 8,000 documents that you sign. People are just putting stuff in front of you, notarizing it. And then it's like, I hope somebody does something important with this. That stuff will come to your office, right? And it'll be filed.
Yes.
Okay, so that's where most people would, you know, would think of it. So tell me, if you're just a member of the general public and you you're looking for something, you're looking for a deed, you're looking for something that somebody says, hey, that probably got that got filed with the Register of Deeds, and you're just a common ordinary citizen that, first of all, doesn't know where the Register of Deeds office is, but they find you. How do they go about searching for this stuff? Do you all have staff on hand that if I walked in and said, you know, I don't even know what this is. I don't know what I'm looking for, but I know it's some type of deed and it was in the 1800s. Do you have staff there that can help you with all that?
Yes, we
Okay.
have a full staff here. People come in every day for that purpose. They don't know how to navigate the information because it's a tremendous amount of information. And so we have people who have expertise in being able to hone in on exactly what you're looking for quickly. And people are able to connect the dots, and they print out plat maps, they print out easements, they print out documents that they need. And a lot of times outside of the research, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that council members utilize this office a lot as well in trying to locate somebody. Like you may have an absentee landlord or somebody who has a property next to you where the grass is grown past your knees, and you're wondering what's going on, who owns the house. That's where we come into play. You're able to find out who the actual owner is by coming to our office and searching our records.
Okay, so
and you can also do this online as well. We have made the latest deed accessible via the Planning Commission's parcel viewer. So if you go to the parcel viewer, which a lot of council members utilize as well, the latest document regarding ownership is linked on the parcel viewer for you to just click on. It's open, transparent. There's no fee to access that document. And but if you want to drill down a little bit further, that's where our staff comes in, where they can help.
So is the link on your website, or is it on, you go to planning to get
it's
access?
Actually on our front page.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, so you have got some really interesting stuff in your office. Okay, so some of the guests we've had on this call, and they've all been interesting, but some of the more interesting guests have been the people who talk about history of Nashville. Okay, so we've had Jim Hubler on the call, we've had Carol Busey on the call. People love the history of Nashville.
Yes.
So
we just had Dr. Williams in here this week, professor at Tennessee State University.
Okay.
Because they're working on a massive project with our archivist that we work very closely with, Ken Fee.
Okay, so so if we had talked to some of the people on the call about eventually sometime opening up like a museum about the city of Nashville. So we've got the Tennessee State Museum, we've got information at archives at the public library downtown for Nashville, but there is so much history in this city. So how much history? I know that some information is kept at the public library. I don't know where all this stuff is, but my guess is you've got a tremendous amount of history under your roof. So
Yeah.
can you tell people a little bit about, you talk about records that go back. What have you got over there?
Well, for instance, First Baptist Church is getting ready to have it's a celebration of the history of that church. We were able to locate the original deed book to the church. So we're going to carefully transport that book so that they can have access to that. People could actually see it when they come to that celebration. But another thing that people identify with is Fort Negley. When there were preservationists and people who worked to try to show the significance of preserving that property, they had to come here to get all of that paperwork to make the case to save Fort Negley. Same thing over in the Edge Hill area. We've worked with the Edge Hill residents heavily in the preservation of Edge Hill because there's a lot of gentrification going on in that area. And so people have come to this office repeatedly to pull up information that is needed to make a case to the city and to others, and also to keep developers from just running ramshot over that area and preserving the history that our city so badly wants to keep intact. So we help with that. And we've got people from East Nashville and other areas of the city that come in that look to try to get information that helps to back up the fact that this property is one that we need to preserve.
So do you all work with Metro Archives?
We do. We
Okay.
work hand in glove with them. That's why I said our archivist is Ken Feith for our city. And we
Okay.
work very, very closely. He actually helps to house many of our oldest deed books that are very fragile, that have to be cared for in a specific way. So you want to keep that preserved to where you can still pull the original documents up, because as you know, computers, they're not always the most reliable. And if they should go down, you need to have something to point to that shows original ownership. Is very important.
So let me ask you this, and you may or may not know the answer to this question, but I'll ask you two questions. The first question is, have you ever been to the National Archives in Washington, D.C.?
I have not.
Okay, so it's one of those Smithsonian things, or I don't know if it's even connected with the Smithsonian, but you walk in and the Declaration of Independence is in there, okay? An original copy, along with the Constitution of the United States. It's amazing. People are just walking in, it's like, there it is. Somebody, back then was smart enough to preserve the copy. It's under special glass. It only comes out at certain times. Exactly. And it's my understanding that in case of some type of attack, it can go underground and it's secure. It is protected. Okay. So the reason I ask here is we have who has the official copy of the Metropolitan Charter that was passed back in the 60s?
We do.
You have it. Okay, good. I'm glad somebody's got it. So the question is, can people see it? Can people see the original? So you may be able to get it on the computer, but I'm talking about all the original documents, the actual documentation itself. So you've got,
And that's off-site, like
okay,
it's in a special facility, because as you know, preserving documents that old,
yeah,
uh, they have to have certain ventilation. There's a lot that goes into preserving the old books that we have. But it's an off-site location here in Nashville, and you can go on tour.
yeah.
Just let us know that you have an interest in seeing the original books, and we will make that arrangement for you.
That is so cool. I didn't know you could do that. Where is it? And do they call your office to set up a tour?
You can call our office, you can call the archives, but a lot of people call us, and we're happy to help set that up. And it's located off of Elm Hill Pike.
Okay,
People would not know, and we try to keep the building where relatively is kind of out of sight, out of
I got
mind,
it. I got it. I understand.
because it's so much that is housed there.
So let me ask you this. If um, if the city were to ever create a museum
Mhm.
or a learning center about Nashville, and the reason I keep bringing this up is that I see tourists who somehow move off of Broadway and come up. They're looking for the state capitol, and then they're looking for the Bicentennial Mall, but they're walking right in front of the Hermitage Hotel. Okay, or they're walking down Fifth Avenue, which is now John Lewis Way. They're walking on history.
Right.
And I know there's some markers up. I don't know if they're seeing them, but they are, I mean, as great a city as Nashville is, there is a tremendous amount of history that is located here. And so you almost want someplace, it's like, besides just kind of walking past it, you almost want somebody to go, you should go to the Nashville Museum and learn about some of the things, some of the pretty important things that happened here.
Well,
Um,
also interconnected with the library. The National Public
right.
Library has a tremendous amount of history. You just have to know where to go and how to look for it. And
Well,
so,
so that's what we're trying to figure out, if you put
mhm,
it in the library or someplace else. But I guess my question to you would be, um, based upon the documentation that you may have, what would people find interesting if we were to actually open up a small place that was the history of Nashville, and you could get the historians to put up a lot of information, about what happened during the civil rights movement, the women's suffrage, some of these really interesting things that went on. What would you put in that library from your office?
well,
Protected, but what would you put in there?
I hope this doesn't offend anybody. We are working on a project right now, that will display all of the former slave deeds that are housed in this office. And when you see them, you can become a little bit emotional. We still do. I mean, we're just surprised at how um, Black folks, Black people, us, African American, were recorded as property, and to see the how they were sold off, and um, how they were traded, all of the different transactions that took place with a human being,
Yeah.
um, is eye opening. And so I think that would be a tremendous asset to it, because a lot of people don't we were the second largest slave port, um, here, and we got the river. There's a lot of things that happened in Nashville that wasn't uh, as positive once you start looking through a lot of the records. But like I said, it was not meant to point fingers or anything like that. It's just to show um, how our city has evolved from that, and to appreciate um, the struggles that people went through.
No,
Yeah.
I think you're right. So I was, you know, the country just recognized the 100th anniversary of the riots in Tulsa. And in terms of understanding it more, it looked like people just kind of covered it up for years, you know, 80 years, 90 years. And finally, they came to kind of a recognizing of the event and what it did and what it destroyed for large parts of that city. So I think it is important. I didn't know you were doing that project. I think that is important, and I think it is important for people to see. And connected to this, and maybe you're working on this as well, in terms of reading books about Nashville, you know, old stories about Nashville, particularly downtown and Fourth Avenue and different things that parts of the city were called. And then where the down right behind Music City Central, the central bus line, there's the old, I think it's the old, it may be the Baptist School Board Association building. I forget exactly what it's called. But that whole area used to be a whole business district for African Americans. I think also where the municipal auditorium is.
It did.
I don't think people know much about that. And so the question would be, not only are you doing a project, but you're also, you also probably have the deeds to all those things.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So is your project connected not only to, are you doing any additional work in terms of trying to understand maybe where some of the old African American business?
Started this. So, you know, it's going to actually evolve from there to encompass what you're saying. But this is something that we just started on. And it, already the information is overwhelming. It's so much.
Yeah.
We've already started pulling out thousands of names and making sure that they're being cross-referenced. And it's a tremendous amount of work that goes into that. And I thank Ken Feith and his team for what they're doing, along with Dr. Williams and others.
So let me ask you a question that's related to your job, but also just related to the fact that I consider you an extremely important leader in this community. Okay. You've been on the school board, the council, now you're the Register of Deeds. So you've had a lot of involvement in Nashville.
Yes.
With the type of project that you're doing, how do you use a project like that to bring people back together? This country is very divided, lots of confrontations, lots of people mad at each other. How would you, through your efforts, start bringing people back together?
I just think, again, I think what I have learned by being in this role, that information is power. I think when people are exposed to information that they were not aware of, I think it creates a better Nashville. I think people become more empathetic. Um, they look at things a little bit differently, um, and they appreciate the efforts that you and others are doing to move Nashville forward in terms of inclusivity. And so I think with all of that meshed together, that's how I think you move people away from the anger. You embrace history, learn from the history, but you move forward in an inclusive way. And so I think it's all about how it's communicated. And we're working on that as well. And again, not in a fashion of pointing fingers or trying to identify that this person did this or this family did this and that kind of thing. I think it's just more so, I think you're able to be better if you understand from whence we started, if that makes sense. If you understand your history and where we have evolved to, you have a greater appreciation for what Nashville is going to become.
I think you're right, and that's really helpful. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm looking at the questions that came in over the week. I know a lot of people were interested in the research capability, and you've answered that. That obviously your office is always open. I mean, the public is always welcome to come in, and you have staff available to help in terms of if people just want to do some basic if people just want to look at records, they can do that.
Well, actually, this office is so accessible. Now, we do have title searchers that stay here all day. And we have a public access area of the office that's actually accessible 24 hours. And it just takes someone being given that approval and access that we issue a card where they can come in. You can come in 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. You can come in anytime, even on the weekend, to get on the systems. Now, of course, we won't have staff here during those after hours, but it is accessible after hours. We also have our portal, which is a subscription portal. We have to be able to have the money in which to keep the operation going. We don't ask the city for money. So all of the activity that comes through this office, whether that's through our subscriptions or our transactions, that is what pays for the operation of the Register of Deeds office in all 95 counties. And so we don't come to the Metro Council. That's one of the unique things about this office to get funding. So we have to be very efficient. And I feel with that trust comes continuing to be transparent and accessible. And so I did want to share, because many people don't know, that the office is accessible even after hours, whether that's through subscription or whether that's having access to come into the public computer area that we have here.
So people can get access. They can come in and get access to a computer if they want to come do the research.
Yes.
In the middle of the night. I assume they can get in.
Our area of, and we have many computers here. And like I said, we have staff here that can show you how to get onto those systems and do various types of research.
Okay. As the vice mayor, can I come in and like check out a big giant one of those books and just take it home with me? No, I can't do that.
No. We will not let the books out of our presence, because again, you don't want them to get torn up. The pages are very, very fragile. And, you know, like if you do a tour of our center where we have all of our old deed books, you'll see how fragile they are and how it's very important for them not to go outside of that.
Yeah, obviously I was just kidding, but that's the right answer. All right. So what is the greatest misconception about your office? What is, do people come in looking for stuff that you don't have? Do they think you're something that you're not in terms of the office? Do people get confused sometimes?
They get confused with the other, we have nothing to do with taxes.
Okay, I get that. Do people come in and try to pay their taxes in your office?
We do have people that do that sometimes, but we don't have anything to do with taxes. We, you know, again, this office is the real estate engine of the city, basically. And so again, we're happy to share the differences in the offices and get people pointed in the direction they need to go. But I think one of the things I want to express today is the new services that we have here in the office that are very helpful to people. When I became register, there was no way for you to really know what this office is all about and how it really impacts you. And so we have been very, very strategic and persistent in terms of getting out in the community at different events, at churches and so forth, to share that the office even exists. Until you have a problem, you don't really know the Register of Deeds office exists. And so I wanted to change that. And the reason being is because although fraud is not rampant in Nashville, things do happen, especially to our elderly population. And so we have a service here now. Since I started, we implemented what is called a property alert system. And what that does is if there's anything filed under your name that's attached to your property, you get notification of that. Why that's important is because you may have a construction lien. I'm gonna give you an example of something that just happened recently. Out in Nashville Village, the townhome owners in an entire townhome complex, a contractor placed new roofing on their townhomes. Now, they didn't approve it. This is approved through the management company. And the bill wasn't paid and liens were placed. Now, you own the unit now.
Right.
Liens were placed on each of those townhome units, and they had no idea that that happened. Somehow, one of the owners found out and called our office to check, and then it spread like wildfire that they all had liens on their properties. And so they all flooded our office asking us, how did this happen? What could we do? And so that's an example of being knowledgeable of what could happen. And so they all signed up for the property alert, so that if anything else is filed on their property, they're notified immediately. Because if it sits there and collects interest, say over a 5-10 year period, then you can imagine when you go to sell your property and you find out that this debt is attached to your property, it has to be paid off before you can move forward with the real estate transaction. If you had known that on the front end early on, then you could have either taken care of that or paid a lower fee versus all of the interest that may have accrued over the years. And that's the same thing with credit card companies and your IRS liens and things of that sort. So that alert system, we've had many people signing up as we've gone around the city, exposing them to the services of the office that I think that people have found to be very valuable. Because when you know information early, it's a lot easier to take care of that than if it has been sitting there accruing interest over the years.
No, I think that's really important because I'm not sure if some people would even know that it got filed. It may be sitting on there and they may not know. So
Right.
do you have to sign up for this property alert thing? And how do you do it?
You do have to sign up.
Okay.
On the front page of our website, you'll see the property alert link, and you click on that, and it's just a matter of putting in your information, and that's it. And if you need help or assistance, again, we have staff here who can help explain how all of that works. And if to go to your point about the title companies,
Mhm.
when title companies do a search with your name, it's on your name to see if it's attached to any property within Nashville, Davidson County. And so if you don't have a clear title, you can't move forward with your transaction to either get a new property or so forth, so on. So it's very important to know what is attached to your property, if anything. And that's another, I think, positive for us being here, is to safeguard your greatest asset
No, I
and
think you're right.
access to it.
No, that's great because you're providing a tremendous service to people. Not only what you do, but now you're trying to help look after people to make sure they protect their greatest asset, and they're not getting scammed or running into fraud situations.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
And we
good for you.
also have our military, who when they leave out of the military at their discharge hearing, is shared with them to file their original DD 214 with the County Register of Deeds offices. Reason being is, if over the years, you may move, documents may get misplaced, and you have to have the original for insurance purposes, funeral purposes. Uh, we also have made it where it's easier for you to get the discounts. You may be able to show your VA card, but you may not know where to go. So
Yeah,
we have a listing of businesses that offer veterans discounts who file their DD 214 here in the office. And anytime they need access to that, they're able to retrieve that without having to
yeah,
wait months from the VA.
that's a really good thing too. Um, so many interesting things going on in your office. Okay, so we got time, I think, for one last question. Um, so people refer to you as a constitutional officer.
Yes.
Okay, what does that mean? And it goes back to the fact that you don't have to come to the Metro Council and ask for money. How does that work? There's a couple of constitutional officers in Nashville. What does that mean?
What that means is, well, it's defined by state law.
Yeah,
The state legislature basically set up these offices, and they are the administrative arm of government, not the legislative. And so the difference is you're running a division and you're expected to do that efficiently because you're accountable through various audits and um, various connections you have, whether that's through the comptroller or Department of Revenue and other entities within state government. And so you're expected to run these divisions, which are elected offices, um, as defined by state law. And so there are very strict guidelines as to what you can and cannot do. But the one difference, I think, from being on the legislative side to being on the administrative side is that you don't influence per se legislation. You can provide information, but you're purely an elected administrator of a particular function that is deemed to be something that taxpayers and the people, the citizens, um, have to have transparency with and
right.
access to.
And there are charges that apply to the things that are filed and so forth, and
Mhm.
that helps pay for your office.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how it works.
All
And a
of
lot of those things are they set by state law?
yes.
So people can go, I don't want to, I'm mad at you because, I have to pay this, but it's a requirement under law. That's how these offices are funded. So it's not you, it's actually how the whole thing kind of works. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if people understand that, but it's your office is set up by state law to do a specific job, which is what you've been explaining today. So anyway, well, it is 10:59. It's going to be 11 o'clock. We always stop right at 11, if not before. Karen, I will tell you one other thing. You were talking about getting out and talking to people about what you do. For those people listening, I see Karen Johnson everywhere. She is everywhere. I'm thinking that you're one of the first people I saw as I came out of the pandemic, and was like just kind of picked up right where we left off. So I very much appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
We've been friends for a long time. I think so much of your work and who you are, and I'm so appreciative of the fact that you're there. Thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for being my guest on the show today.
That's
Our guest next week is Brenda Wynn, the county clerk. Anyway, I hope everybody has a nice, safe weekend and a great week ahead. Please join us next week. And Karen, with all your energy, I assume you have plenty of stuff to do over the next this weekend. So go out and have fun. All right.
Thank you. You do the same. And I hope that we share something today that was helpful for everyone, because we pride ourselves in this office, and I do want to tout, we were chosen as one of National Business Journal's best places to work. And so we pride ourselves on the service we give to the citizens of our city. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to you and your staff. And I think we all learned something today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody be safe. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.